Listen, laugh, and learn with Sacha and Ish as they share their experiences, thoughts, and tips to build skills that are not so average and a career that's not so ordinary. This is the Not So Breakfast Show.
Thank you for that introduction, Alice. Welcome to the show today, and this is our second part of the two-part series of unpacking Ted Lasso as we look at the learnings from a leadership perspective and the dynamics of the characters in that show. We had such a good discussion that we split it into two parts. If you haven't listened to part one, which was last week's episode, I would start there, go back, listen to that, and then progress into this one, binge it back to back. But otherwise, if you did listen to last week, let's not waste any more time. Let's just pick up where we left off. So why don't we talk about Nate Shelley? This character, I think, was complex for so many reasons. So he was literally the water boy, towel guy in the background, and Ted realised that this guy had forgotten more about football than Ted had even learnt about football. Like, he was exposed to so much from being brought up around it, seeing the team, being immersed in the culture. But he was such a background character.
Growing up in England, not America.
But he had that massive rise and fall. And for me, Nate's character was the manifestation of imposter syndrome. Right, so he basically had this voice in his head that really was his dad's voice, but this voice in his head that you're not good enough, you can't do this, you're not going to be able to do that position, you're not going to get the girl, you're not going to get the table at the restaurant, which was a reoccurring theme because he always wanted to get the table in the window. And he had that rise through the opportunity that Ted presented to him. So that was great. But then it got to a point where ego got in the way and he'd been celebrated so much as the wonder kid or, Nate the Great, that he started to believe it at a level that wasn't healthy and then just completely derailed in that second season.
I think it's interesting when you think about our own careers. How do you guard against that? So if you get good at something and you get some praise and you get some promotion or you get advancement and development, how do you keep it real in terms of not believing your own hype or not getting too big for your boots or not growing a sense of entitlement? I mean, I recognise it within myself in ways that I don't like. When I would start thinking about, I'd get to maybe Tuesday and I'd have done 2 or 3 really good things at work. Mm-hmm. And I'd go, well, that's me for the week because really no one else I know could have delivered that much value by Tuesday, so I'm done. Yeah. See you later. Without going, well, no, actually, you're kind of paid to deliver value 5 days a week. And it's not about a 5-day week, but it's just about never kind of losing the sense of how you got there was on the good grace of others who gave you opportunities. Yeah, I mean, have you ever struggled with that or seen it in other people?
Yeah, reflecting on my own journey, I think I've always acknowledged the fact that I'm where I am because of other people, and that's not lost on me. Like, I know the people that have opened opportunities for me before I was ready or saw the potential before I could see the potential. And so that is part of my story, part of my journey, and I definitely want to do that for others. It hasn't been on individual talent. That it's easy to either forget or believe the hype and not retrospectively reflecting back. Because if you think about Nate, as soon as the new towel guy came in, there was an opportunity where he could have been humble and talked about a mistake that he had made, but he didn't. He just annihilated him and cut him down like massively. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so interesting that he couldn't recognize that he was there because of Ted and opportunity. He had the opportunity to give it back, but didn't. And that was really the start of his demise.
Actually, I read a great quote the other day that was, I went back and reread 2 or 3 times to think about it. And it said, we talk about the foundation of empathy being imagination. So imagine walking a mile in someone else's shoes and that can give you empathy for them. This quote said, often a lack of empathy comes from the fact you have walked in someone else's shoes. And because your approach to how you got yourself out of that situation might be different, you don't have grace towards others. So if you're someone, for example, who grew up in poverty, but you pulled yourself up by your own bootstraps and you've made something of yourself, you just believe that everybody in poverty should do that. Or if you grew up and you were in a, your family was a bit shit, but you turned out okay, you just think everybody with a family that, was shit should turn out okay. And yeah, it can actually sometimes harden you to the fact that not everybody responds in the same way. And I think Nate's a really good example of that instead of going, hey, I've been there too, kid, he was like, I was there and now look at me. And so you actually lose the love and grace towards other people because you believe your own hype that you are somehow deserving of where you've got to because of how you approach that situation. Yeah. And I can recognize this, say, with sickness. So I've got to be really careful about guarding against this. So somebody might say to me, my friend has cancer. And I'll say, what kind of cancer do they have? And they'll say, it's melanoma. And they have to get it cut off their back. And it's a really worrying time for the family. And I'll say, has it been caught early? And they go, yeah, it's been caught really early. And there's a part of me that wants to go, well, excuse me for not going on this big emotional journey with you because you're going to cut out this tiny melanoma and everyone's going to be fine. So could you all stop weeping about the fact that you've got cancer? Because some of us have really had cancer, like proper cancer. And so there's this ugly kind of side that comes out that, does that make sense?
Yep.
And so you've got to guard against going, only certain types of diseases are worth our care because you just get hardened because of the own situation that you've been in. And I think, the example of Nate sort of brings up a bunch of that stuff for us to go to recognise what are we hardened to, because he got hardened to stuff and then over time he softened again. Yeah. And I think that's really nice to recognise when our life experiences, rather than making us a little bit more tough and robust, they actually just, make us more prickly. And that prickliness doesn't serve us because it pushes other people away and it doesn't help us either.
And I don't know if you noticed it, but our attitude towards Nate and towards Jamie, to a point, they manipulated it and changed it by showing different aspects of what was going on in his life. So at the start, he was the likeable water boy, towel guy that everyone was being mean to, and Ted gives the opportunity, and it turns out he's amazing at coming up with these plays with soccer because he's seen so many of them. And then you start to see a little bit of the weirdness, like you see him derail in the toilets because he couldn't get the table and headbutt the mirror and all of that stuff that went on. But then you kind of felt a little bit sorry for him in that space. And he's got all this stuff going on. Then he started to do stuff behind Ted's back. He, ripped up the belief sign. There was all of the stuff that happened that caused us not to like him. I know. And then he goes and coaches with Rupert, and you're just like, he's lost, right? He's done. But in his redemption, I guess, because I think Ted still loved Nate, and really wanted him to come back from the dark side.
He was the prodigal son.
He wanted him to come home. But then the way they started to show the dad's voice, the way that he was brought up and all of that, suddenly you started to soften towards him again. And the key moment where Rupert had those two prostitutes basically in front of him and he had just started dating the girl that he'd always wanted, and he went, no, I'm going to go home. And he left that situation, and suddenly it was like, everything's okay again. And then Nate obviously comes back to the team and humbles himself and ends up being the support person to the new towel guy. So that whole journey, that whole roller coaster. But how often do we judge someone on what we're seeing only on the surface without having the empathy or the time to maybe look beneath the surface? And to be fair, a lot of people out there, when they're going through that stuff, they're hard to deal with, right? But it's us remembering that they weren't always like that or seeing the potential. And I think that's the leadership trait that we love in Ted Lasso, is that he can see that. He wants that person to come back and he's encouraging them all the time. You're not that lost. We've got this. Come back here.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
it's also really interesting professionally to say, let's say you work for an organisation. Let's take Les Mills as an example, which is our shared company. And when you have a really strong value set and a very strong mission and purpose, you have people who bleed for you. They literally get tattoos of the company logo on their arms. It means a lot to a lot of people. And we can get really territorial and protective. So if somebody leaves, we're like, well, fuck them. They've betrayed the entire family. And it's like, it's a company. It's not the mafia. Yeah. This is not like a mob environment. So we've had a couple of people that have left coffee culture, and I've encouraged it. I've said, go and get some more experience, because you kind of tapped out to the extent of what we can teach you. Yeah. Go and meet some new people, have some different experiences, do some study. If you come back, great. Come back a better, stronger, more complete person. Wicked. That's a good thing. Not if you leave, I slam the door behind you, there's no going back, you're dead to me. And obviously it depends on the way you exit. Yeah. But even those things change over time, right? Nate didn't leave on good terms. I mean, what I love about the prodigal son is a parable from the Bible is it's just always a home. And Chris and I have wanted to say to all of our kids, it doesn't matter where we live, you can always come home. And, I mean, just last night I was in Auckland. I dropped Chris off at the airport and I was having a wee nap at my mum and dad's. So, as you know, 50 tomorrow. My sister's kids are there. She arrives home. She's a secondary school teacher. Next minute, she's lying next to me in mum and dad's bed. So she's like 45. Yeah. And the two of us might as well be kids again. We have gone back home. To our home, which is not the family home we grew up in, but mum and dad are out in the kitchen and we are home. And I think if your companies or your families can create home, we go, even if people leave, and if people leave on the most horrendous terms, what is the way for people to come home? There's always got to be a way to come home.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the contrast in Jamie's parents. Yeah. So you've kind of got Jamie's mum, who's like what the heck was with that episode where it's just like she's dating him. It's like so just this perfect child in her eyes, and she was obviously had him really young, and that whole juxtaposition was so awkward. And then you've got the dad who's just like not likable, the alcoholic, the violent guy, and when Jamie punches his dad in the face in that episode, that you just feel that it was so justified. And yet it broke him, the fact that he'd done that, because all he wanted was his dad's validation. Yeah. And how often that we carry that stuff, like you said, like the stones, it affects us so much that it almost becomes to the point where we can't move on because of all this thing that's going on there. But sometimes you just got to confront it.
And that's why we have therapy.
But yeah, I mean, how many people in that show ended up getting some therapy, or at least talking to someone?
Yeah, and if you can't afford therapy, you just start your own driving dogs. You go to Reddit and you go, "Am I the asshole? Here's my situation. Am I the asshole here?"
What about Coach Beard? So here we've got basically Ted's best friend, right? I mean, he has come all the way from America to this weird country where no one does anything the right way as far as he's concerned. It's all a bit odd. But how loyal is he? And I guess we get the story of why he was so loyal later on. And he's just got his back. And I thought about that, if Ted was the CEO of a company, there is power in having a really strong second. Someone who is that person that is literally there to support, because you're only as strong as the people that are around you. And if you can surround yourself with a network of people, that high-performing team, but also have that strong second that's just got your back, that's how powerful that is from a leadership perspective.
And it doesn't mean that they're a yes man. So Coach Ben's not a yes man. He doesn't just do everything Ted says, and he pushes back on Ted. He calls Ted to account in a couple of occasions. But there's still that public-facing bit that says, I got you, here we go. And I think it's different from surrounding yourself with sycophants who just blow smoke up your ass and you go, oh, this is great. No, it's not. That's not loyalty. Because loyalty is when people tell you the stuff that you might not want to hear. They show you sides of yourself that enable you to grow. And that's a really important trait.
So how do you think you cultivate that in a team, that hold people to account, that genuine like trust, that respect, that candor, that loyalty, because some teams aren't as high functioning as others, but you can build that, and you know, we see that in sport, right? So we must be able to do it in leadership.
Yeah, I think partly it's about having those conversations. So I was talking to my sister about this yesterday. In her new team dynamic, there's some interesting things that play out, and she was asking for my advice about how she can give feedback to somebody. I said, have you asked them how they like to get their feedback? She's like, oh, no, that'd be good. And I said, yeah, it would be good. So I had a meeting today with a woman, and we might be doing some work together. And I just said to her at the end, I said, look, I would love to help. I would love to be involved, but I have no ego in this. So we can go further if we go faster. So if it turns out you don't want me for this opportunity, I'd really value you just picking up the phone and going, you're not right for this opportunity. You don't have to write me a flowery email that says, thank you. Just say, not right for this opportunity. Because if we can separate from ego, we can go faster, we can go far. I mean, you think, Ish, about when we were doing filming our little clips, we're doing some promos for the Not So Breakfast Show. And the guys that we're working with, they start going, okay, guys, that was a really good take, and I liked the way you this. And I thought, I'm going to kill you. So I said to them, for me personally, I don't need the smoke. Just give me the notes. What you want me to change? Was my head on the wrong angle? Do I need to look to a different camera? Just tell me straight so we can go fast and far. Because actually the flowery stuff gets in the way. And you might be someone who says, okay, before you tell me the hard stuff, give me a couple of nice, encouraging things first. So for my sister, I said, just ask this woman. Say, hey, I want us to work together really well. I think there's some opportunities for us to improve our work. How do you like to get feedback? Yeah. And, what Kyla said was so funny was that she had some feedback from someone the other day, and the person just kind of cut in quite hard with them. And Kyla's like, excuse me, where's the C bit? It's like CRC, commend, recommend, and you appear to have gone straight to the recommend. I would like some of the flowery, fluffy stuff first, and then I'm going to be ready to listen to you. So I think just a conversation about how people like to roll. But I think ultimately, once you've established that there's that deep respect, you can start going faster, and you can start being more frank, which is like, hey, Ish, I got a bit of feedback. How do you want it? Let's go.
Yeah. And
you might say, I don't need all the flowery stuff, but now's not good. I'm exhausted. Can you ring me tomorrow? And that's perfectly legit too, right?
Totally.
Not now. Not now.
I want to stay up all night and try and work out what it is in my head before we have the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right, well, maybe as we start to close off this big discussion on Ted Lasso.
Or Lasso, or Ted Lasso, it's up to you. Lasso.
Damn it. I've been doing so well. Ted Lasso. I just need to go lasso, like lasso. That's what I need to do. Is maybe go through some of just the high-level leadership, other things that I've kind of taken away from
that.
So
please.
One of the other ones is that that good ideas can come from anywhere.
Yes.
And I think that you see that in the way that Ted explores concepts and like, what do you think? What do you think in this situation? He's not automatically defaulting to, this is what I think we should do. I've got the answers. And they come up with their, ultimate football play, or they do the one episode where it's all the tricks and they use that, because he really has this undertone. If you want to win, sometimes you need to do something different. So there's real consistency about Ted and what he does and how he operates. But then there's that unpredictability where he'll just go, you know what? This isn't working. Let's do something else. And they're like, what do you mean let's do something else? We've been doing this play for the last 8 weeks. He goes, well, it's not working now. We're going to change it. And they go, yeah, but we have to train that. And go, well, we don't have the time to train it. You're out for the second half in 2 minutes. Let's get it. I definitely love that. The other one is it's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And those are little statements that he has actually said in the show, but they just always resonate. And they're really leadership principles. So like, just stick to your values, make sure that you're honest and that you do the right thing. It's important. Look after other people. That reciprocity piece is big. It will come back to you. And also that courage to be willing to try stuff, just because it doesn't feel like it's not going to work doesn't mean that it's not a good idea to try it. It might be that you actually try it and it didn't work, but you get the learning that sets you off in the other direction. And we were even talking about brainstorming the other day, right? And you kind of talked about the fact that sometimes you've just got to get through the shit ideas to get the good idea.
Yes.
Because the chances are of sitting in the room and coming up with the best idea all at that one moment, and it was like, wow, that was amazing, and not have gone through all of the other stuff that often doesn't happen.
Yeah, I love the lesson around the strength and diversity, that the team of people from different cultures, different backgrounds can succeed. And you see it through the difference in class, so the difference between Keely and Rebecca and their friendship, and how they can both bring something of value to each other. And I think it's really easy to dismiss people because they don't look how we expect they should look. They haven't been to the school we think they should have been to. They don't have the qualification. And I'm like, oh, all of that stuff is bullshit. Can the person do the thing that needs to be done? And what special sauce do they bring? And how do we grow and develop that?
Right, so that's been a great discussion, and I am going to go back and watch a series again. I've watched one twice, and I am going to, definitely go back and watch the others. So if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, then you should definitely get on it. It's a great ride. It's on Apple. Highly recommend. And watch it with a pen and paper. Like, actually take some notes. It would be really interesting to go through that and what did you get out of each episode. I mean, I've kind of got a lot just reflecting back through and kind of even thinking about the shows and the clips. And it always disturbs me how much I can actually remember about television when I go and think back. And Sacha's like, Cindy, go, how are you remembering all that stuff? But it just comes out. My brain's wired for entertainment. So yeah, definitely a show that I think can change your leadership style, change your perception on things, and just open you to lots of different ways to try stuff.
One of my key things that I want to action from it, I've got kind of diamond dogs, but we don't all meet together. So I've got a couple of people that when I'm in trouble or I'm flat or I don't know what to do, I'll ring them individually. But it'd be really efficient to just go, okay guys, I just need you online, half an hour from 8 o'clock tonight, let's go, and have a group of people that would just come on and go, okay, here's the situation, they chuck some advice in, and then you go. And, if you get called on to be their person for half an hour, great, you turn up when you can. I think that's such a useful thing that we could do for each other. It would be super cool.
I love it. So you are heading away, and this has been a two-part, so you're already away, but you are heading away for 3 weeks, Sash. What are you up to?
So I am continuing my Festival of 50, going to see a few sites in a few different places, and looking forward to being somewhere a bit warmer through the New Zealand winter. Yeah,
it's been freezing, and it's your birthday tomorrow.
Yay!
You are 50.
Halfway, baby. Halfway.
I totally believe it. And I just want to say you are fantastic, 50, and an amazing friend and work colleague. And I just get so much out of our time together. I have loved spending the last 2.5 years with you, recording every single week, coming up with content, brainstorming, getting better. And I just want to say thank you for all the opportunities that you do give to me. And you are generous with your time, you are generous with your finances, and you are an amazing human. So yes, get another 50 years because the world needs you, Sash.
Oh, thank you. I'm all emo. Thanks, Ish. I appreciate it. I look forward to sharing stories when I get back. Thank you.